Welcome back, everyone. It's exciting to be here with you this morning, and I'm really excited to introduce our next few poets. I'm going to say a few words about them here at the beginning of our time together, and then I'll come back at the end to read a couple final poems as well. Again, my name's Shook. I'm a poet and translator who feels very honored to be with you here today to stand alongside Palestinian poets and Palestinian people. Our first reader today is going to be Ilana Marie Levinson-Labrosse, poet and translator from Kurdish. We'll also be joined by Victor Teran, a poet in the Isthmus Zapotec language of southern Oaxaca, and by Mohsen Emadi, a Persian poet who lives in Mexico. And I believe we will also see Zedan Khelef, a beautiful poet from Mesopotamia. So thanks so much for joining us. And without further ado, I'm proud to introduce Ilana Levinson-Labrosse.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for letting us be part of thinking about Palestine and thinking about Lebanon and setting aside time in our days to actually come together and be together in some way, shape, or form. I'm reading next to my little one here, so you might see them pop up. But they know all about Palestine and Lebanon, and they send their love. Dream state. The boys fly kites, tomato-cased cans for spools, cotton sewing thread for the line, plastic bags splayed across twigs for the kite. Every time a kite comes down, a boy tries to fix it. Yusuf has flown his all the way to the next village, across electricity lines. Ibrahim, Yusuf's brother, says, if we had just one more plastic bag, we would make one for you. Khizr camp to the airport, Slimani to Istanbul, Istanbul to Colombo. Deep night, nothing open. Heat so thick the mosquito netting traps it against the bed. A train calls from where the track parallels the coast, but no more trains run here. They've torn down the platforms, torn up the tracks that ran through the fields where a little boy once stood, working the fields with his family, crying and waving to the departing passengers he didn't know, unable to understand what departure was. A dog barks, barks, barks. Yes, that is a dog. Rhythmic male chanting distends over a loudspeaker. Not the call to prayer, too late, too choral. And this is Buddhist country. Tuk-tuks and buses with their quick-step trumpets. A dog barks. A bell rings 6 times, but doesn't signal the hour. A flatbed sells vegetables and fruits, but not stove-bound canisters, no fur-elise alerting customers in their homes, no fur-elise distorted by 2 megaphones duct-taped to the driver's side mirror. The chant continues. A pigeon coos. Oh no, oh no, oh no. I'm falling asleep beside Borges. His dream tigers are my dream tiger, there at the foot of the bed, breathing heavily. I fit myself in beside them and curl around them in the little light. When I turn to sleep, our spines settle against each other. We listen to the foghorns outside make their accidental chords. I think of the men who call a city to prayer and their chorus, distorted by loudspeakers stretched across the cityscape, their voices bashing into each other before the thought of dawn. How many of the callers still climb the stairs? How many of the calls are recordings, a button pressed by some sleepy servant of the prayer rug? Borges is interested. He asks if I've found out any more about those sister wives of the last prince of the Ardelans. I forgot. I can't believe I forgot to tell you. Yes, they were both poets. You should write about it. It feels like you already have. So this next poem I'll share with you is from a series of verbatim poems that I've been working on. In Iraq, we love oral history because it helps us build history from the individual up instead of these overarching monolithic arches, which we know are so incomplete at best. So these verbatim poems have been coming from these lifetime interviews that my staff and I have been doing all over Iraq. But for a time, I was doing them intensively in Mosul after the Islamic State occupation. And this next poem I'll read comes from a man I spoke with there at length. His name was Majid. No one lives now where I did. It's all destroyed. The bridges, the cinema, the library. We didn't know, but they doused the books with accelerant. Anyone who threw water at the fire only made the books burn faster. When I was growing up, Mosul was a mosaic. Now, it is simple tile. But every Iraqi has a sad story. Kuwait, the Iraq War. I'm not unusual. I'm happy I finished university, the only in my village who did. Mustafa Hamdoun, my skinny English teacher, used to say, a full belly means an empty brain. Today, we eat and eat. We see only how much we eat, not whether it is good. We only eat. When I was 10 years old, my father's friend came to visit. There were no buses, no cars, people walked. Our friend came at night. Wolves attacked him. He climbed a tree and stayed there all night. In the morning, the wolves dispersed, and he climbed down and kept walking. My father said, life is precious. His friend took us to see the tree. We looked up into the branches, and my father's friend said, that's where I slept. Life is precious. This is a story we told, but also it happened. Shuk, I just want to check in a little bit about time. I was going to read one more poem of my own, and then I would like to read a poem by Taha Muhammad Ali. Do we have time? Go ahead. Okay, great. So I lived for 10 years in Iraq, and this poem was written in my beautiful apartment that I still have there. We still feel is very much home for us in so many ways. But again,
Now you're done.
I'm almost done. I'm going to read 2 more poems. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Drought. After the day's last call to prayer, there is no external marker of night passing. Only me, alone, slowly turning to water. The evening helps me out of my skin, as if out of a taxi or a coat, and all that was contained, all that I held together, I let loose. Still, I could throw all the water I am at the desert below and not be enough for a sapling. I wish I could spend my life. Bless you. I wish I could spend my life as a brain in a jar. I put a tomato in my mouth. I test its skin. How breakable, how spillable everything is inside. I love the sudden water of the skin pulling back. I hate the breaking, and I love the water. The last poem I'll share with you is actually the first poem that I read to my students when I began teaching at the American University of Iraq, Slemani. And it is by one of the poets who made me a poet. His name is Taha Muhammad Ali. He's a beautiful Palestinian poet who we actually lost the day I started teaching, translated by a wonderful man named Peter Cole. His biography is also by Adina Hoffman, definitely worth a read. It's a story we told, but also it happened. Lyle, come snuggle with me. Habibi Yan. There we go. Meeting at an airport. You asked me once, on our way back from the mid-morning trip to the spring, what do you hate and who do you love? And I answered from behind the eyelashes of my surprise, my blood rushing like the shadow cast by a cloud of starlings. I hate departure. I love the spring and the path to the spring, and I worship the middle hours of morning. And you laughed, and the almond tree blossomed, and the thicket grew loud with nightingales. A question now 4 decades old, I salute that question's answer, and an answer as old as your departure. I salute that answer's question, and today it's preposterous. Here we are at a friendly airport by the slimmest of chances, and we meet. Oh, Lord, we meet. And here you are, asking. Again, it's absolutely preposterous. I recognized you, but you didn't recognize me. Is it you? But you wouldn't believe it. And suddenly, you burst out and asked, if you're really you, what do you hate and who do you love? And I answered, my blood fleeing the hall, rushing in me like the shadow cast by a cloud of starlings. I hate departure, and I love the spring and the path to the spring, and I worship the middle hours of morning. And you wept, and flowers bowed their heads, and doves in the silk of their sorrow stumbled. Thank you so much for having me with you this morning, for having our kid with you this morning. And we really are thinking of Palestine and Lebanon all the time, no less than we are thinking of America, which is equally in crisis, hoping for peace.
Lagika diusis tine. Nanga Victor Terang. Dinisa gulle gijigie lula México. Rari chigunda chupadichado Gusiga de Gichi Palestina, di Gichi Mabini de Gendaridin de la, Rama Guttis Stalle Pevini, Rinava Kagichiro Vanugichi Layu, Gakane Kabinidi, Tiganda Givani Jikabe, Negibigetta Gendanabani Nayeche Nenasaka Danili Chikabe. Reciban mi saludo. Soy Víctor Terán, Vinizá del Istmo oaxaqueño y mexicano. Les ofrezco 2 poemas en mi lengua autóctona zapoteca y en español, en solidaridad con el pueblo palestino que tiene el derecho inalienable a vivir en paz, seguridad y dignidad. Gaza está en ruinas. Más de 43,000 palestinos han muerto y la crisis humanitaria empeora cada día, por lo que es vital y urgente que el mundo brinde ayuda humanitaria a Palestina. Alto a la guerra y viva la paz con dignidad. 2 poemas a Palestina. Kanagá rididilutu, el verdor que ustedes ven. Nesashki jedi washie naga, la de la deriaba nisagie. Kashpinenda navaniraña, la kawashas talegu serie. Nulla yu nudi lugusiva, la yu nadipa, la yu dice, chupachonna binizaga bia vitagunaka ninegie. Binisidi dina naga riwini gijigie, kanaga rididilutuka, nakakani Yugiba Ludidie. En mi tierra hay poco verdor. De en cuando viene la lluvia. Y lo peor es que mi gente vive del campo, aunque muchos también son pescadores. Hay terrenos que producen en tiempos de secas, terrenos fértiles, terreno de riego, unos cuantos malvados afines al poder las acaparan a muerte. Los viajeros dicen que hay verdor, que observan verdor por estas tierras juchitecas. El verdor que ellos ven son soldados con las armas listas. Diniguala Chingana. Soy oriundo de estas tierras. Diniguala Chingana. Gulenda anigichigie. Rinistika gula saniane lucerunda di jagie. Nanna cinesa saya. Nenanna paranga sia. Nekagiava gi sindaya rinistivi nivisiania. Nachie gira kashkenda sikanachie di jasa. Nera vestigia risacca via carisacca di jastia. Giranu viniwalachica. Usisacca nulanu. Dani gicilayu, via carisacca giranu, vinni rusianda tula, lubiri sarenda schippi, vinni rusianda tula, ririga nerinitti. Soy oriundo de estas tierras, nací en Juchitán. Sangre vinizá llevo y mi lengua esparce la dulzura de su origen. Sé de dónde vengo y sé hacia dónde voy. Aunque llueva lumbre llegaré, sangre de hombres águila mi sangre. Amo y respeto mi cultura, mi lengua zapoteca, y digo que mi lengua vale como la lengua española. Todos nosotros los nativos hagamos saber nuestra valía, que en todo el universo no hay cultura superior a otra. La gente que olvida su origen, en el aire vaga su ombligo. La gente que olvida su esencia, se vacía de alma y sucumbe. Gracias y que viva Palestina.
Hi, everybody. I will be reading in different languages. First, I have to tell that I wrote many years ago that every kid born in the Middle East, so-called Middle East, has at least two homeland. First is Palestine, and second is the place he or she is born. And another thing that I have to mention that all along the history, the powers never had heart. It were people who always bring those heartless powers to their knees, remembering the fact that the blood can speak and the stone remember. I read to Palestinian exile because my experience was not similar to what's happening there. It's something that I cannot even imagine. So I talk to the exile and I read in different languages. ما همیشه بیهوده میتابد و جنگ ها بی دلیل آغاز نمی شوند. آن که می رود آن که می ماند اما هر دو مغلوب تصادفند. پس اول نگاه کن به چشمهایم چنان که چمدانهایت را بسته خداحافظی هایت را کرده و بی حسرت تنها کیف آخرین سیگار را با خود میبری پیش از حرکت قطار که حقیقت زاده حسرت است و نمیخواهم حقیقت تو باشم. پس چشمهایت را ببند و مرا ببوس تا فلز بوسه هایت در رگهایم ذوب شوند و در بی‌تفاوتی ماه غالب ببندند که قطار به ایستگاه نزدیک می شود، یعنی زیبایی زاده محال است و در بطن یأس ممکن می شود. آنجا که پوستم تخیل خاک است از لحظه‌ای که سیگار زیر پاهایت خاموش می شود و تو ابدی می شوی. توقف نورافکنها بر مجسمه ماه بدر در ایستگاه متروک به وقت بمباران. This is when the heart does not beat and the clock beats. Love is when the heart beats and the clock does not beat. Perhaps this simple comparison explains why you glanced at your watch. You knew that waiting is the dense endurance of eternity, and love, the miracle of mortals, make eternity ashamed. But this does not wait for anybody. The long summer afternoon was going down on coffins and clock towers. The ruins knew, and you did not know, that war makes waiting invalid and saving life the whole truth. Was she dead? Had she fled without you, or were you not in love anymore? The dead were not answering, the living were escaping, and love from then on beat within the pulse of a clock. Son la tierra seca y el agua quienes escriben estas líneas. Son la memoria y el olvido quienes escriben estas líneas. La blancura del papel se encuentra a sí misma en tus manos y el papel vacío, el poema desleído, se moja con tus lágrimas. Las lágrimas se evaporan al rozar la punta de mis dedos. Desde la oscuridad del mar primordial, un viento duro penetra mi camisa y mis huesos tiemblan, y las palabras húmedas a través de los poros de la piel caen en el papel. Son la tierra seca y el agua, son la memoria y el olvido, y la proporción del olvido en el cuerpo es siempre mayor. Sin eso, es imposible nadar en cualquier mar, es imposible abarcar cualquier cuerpo. Y la palabra es la salazón del mar, y la palabra es el esqueleto de los muertos. Cuando estoy cavando una tumba en mi cuerpo, estoy cavando tu tumba en una tierra inaccesible. Y el viento, que es la esencia de los sueños, desde la superficie del mar primordial, penetra mi camisa. En la orilla del papel, el agua baila alrededor de tus pequeños pies, todavía blancos, todavía sólidos. Voy a nadar. Me miras y en la lejanía una ventana se abre y vuelve a cerrarse. Me acaricias y más allá de la ventana la lluvia empieza a caer y la lluvia cae también sobre mí. Estás a mi lado y cada movimiento tuyo hace que algo se mueva en la lejanía, algo que retorna y es causa de que algo se mueva también en mí. Yo nací en el año de tu exilio. Una mujer construía muñecas dentro de tus ojos. Las muñecas tenían las formas de tus muertos y se sentaban en el alféizar de una ventana frente a mi rostro. Una tenía mi sombrero sobre su cabeza y la otra llevaba puestos mis zapatos. Yo fui cargado con la materia de las pérdidas. Tú me mirabas y la lluvia seguía cayendo, caía sobre tus maletas, en los zapatos y en los sombreros de los muertos. Ahora te beso y besándote intercambiamos nuestras pérdidas. Y el último. And the last one. De cada pérdida nace un fantasma. La hija que nunca tuve y está llorando en la azotea. El poema que nunca escribí y se convirtió en un mal sueño de papel. La hija que nunca tuve lee el poema que nunca escribí. Está lloviendo en la azotea y la lluvia lava el papel y después lo descarga. El papel se convierte en el sujeto de la pérdida. Así sucede con mi piel. Yo pierdo mi piel cuando tus manos no están en mí. Viva Palestina.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Mohsen, Alana, Victor. It's a beautiful reading. I loved hearing all of those languages together. Very grateful to each of you, to the organizers, to Janani for inviting me to gather these writers. And I'm grateful to the writers who are here in spirit, but were not able to be here for meteorological or technical issues. I'm going to end our segment reading a translation from the Kurdish from this book by Farhad Birbal, which I translated with Pishtiwan Babakir. It's called Refugee 33,333. And this poem is called 1993. As long as the price of a shoe in Paris is enough to feed 30 of the hungry in Siberia, as long as 3 cold Swedish krona is worth 33 days in the lives of 33 of the hungry in Somalia, As long as the price of a Pepsi Cola in Chicago is worth the monthly salary of an employee gone unpaid in Hauler, as long as a pound is worth 2 tins of fuel in Sarajevo, as long as the price of an agal in Saudi Arabia is worth 2 houses for a homeless nobleman in Armenia, as long as a German mark is worth almost a can of cheese and a sack of potatoes in St. Petersburg, as long as the price of a pair of underwear in Geneva is worth 15 kurta and shalwar in Bombay, as long as the asshole dollar is worth 500 dinars in Slemani, as long as even 500 dinars is not worth a glass of ice cream in Venice, this world must be destroyed entirely. Thank you. Long live Palestine.